Our training today is setting up a class template in writing a yoga class for beginner yoga teachers who don't know where to start when writing a yoga class, don't know exactly how to go with their own flow quite yet. So we're going to go and break it into 3 parts, 3 different waves of a class. First thing to consider is the skill level that you're teaching to, whether it be beginner, intermediate, or advanced, and what your intent is of the class, which you want to take into consideration the time of day. If it's early in the morning, you want it to be an energizing class. If it's later in the evening, you want it to be more calming. So to open your class, you want to greet your students, make sure you make eye contact with everybody in the classroom, introduce yourself to new students, make everybody feel comfortable, and first get everybody settled. So to do that, you want to start with everybody in a seated position to help them stay present and get in the moment, and start with some breath work. So good breath work to consider. There's a lot of options in Pattabhi Jois's book, The Yoga Mala. He recommends using movement with breath work, so subtle raising of the arms or twisting side to side to get you into the moment. So what would be a good idea for if you're running late and you're stressed and you're running late into a yoga class, what would be a good way to get your student to calm down and be present and kind of arrive?
I would say relaxing music.
Good.
Yes. Dark room.
Yes. Lighting plays into calming people down, and also starting with some very calm music, maybe no words, so they can just not focus on anything and allow themselves to calm and be present. What else would be something that could be done?
Maybe like the scent that's in the air, like incense or candles.
Yes, the aroma. You could do some nice calming aromas like lavender, burn some incense, have candles lit, just kind of set the surroundings to calm people down. Then once you get people grounded and you open with your first round of Om to get everybody on the same page, you want to move slowly into your first opening wave. So in the first wave, you want to include nothing too difficult or too strenuous right away. It's more of a warm-up wave. So things you can focus on are standing positions, like tree position, or lunges, or things that are very grounding. And then this is when you can start to kick the music up a little bit more and start to use your voice inflection to bring people up and get them moving. This is where more consistent movements begin, so opening sun salutations in vinyasa classes, and you want to match every movement with the breath. So this is where you can start counting out breath work and making people aware of their breath and matching their breath to the movement. This is another place where the intent will come in. So again, if people come in and it's early in the morning, you want to make sure that you kick up the energy right away so they're not sleepy through the whole practice. Or if they come in after work and they're kind of scatterbrained, you want to take the time to calm them down, make them feel more present, and get them slowed down and out of their own head and into their body before they start moving. And the star here in between the waves stands for transition. In the transitions, it's a good time to work in any ab work, so bringing people down to the ground after a first wave and working on strengthening, so it could be plank position, working on strengthening the arms and the abs, any balancing postures to work on to prepare for the second wave, which will be your peak pose. So grounding will happen in the first wave. Transition, you want to focus on your ab work and your balancing to get yourself set up for the second wave, where is the peak pose will come in. which is your hardest pose of the practice. And this is typically, excuse me, a balancing pose. So anything where you find yourself on one leg or even one arm for very advanced practitioners, this is where this asana will come into play. My teacher, Mike Galarza, who set up this class template and taught me about it, always suggested that you want to up the music the most during the second wave. So any super energizing music or with the most beats will get people out of that warm-up wave and into the second wave where a lot of the work happens. So any more intense ab work can be brought in from the transition into the second wave. And this is a good time to focus on adjusting your students. And since this is the hardest pose, people are starting to work more and starting to shake and get a little more tired. That's when the basics start to lag a little and people get shaky, and this is where a lot of injuries occur. So you want to be most observant during the second wave, making sure you're making contact with everybody you can in the room, making eye contact, and making sure that nobody looks like they're pushing themselves out of their level or comfort zone to keep up with the person next to them. So that is a hint I picked up from David Kyle in his book about observing and adjusting students. And then we'll go from the second wave into the final third wave with another transition. And since we did most of the ab work in the beginning and end, this is where you can start to prepare for your back bends. So any opening postures, opening the heart and chest, opening up the low back, and getting ready to move into the third and final wave. First off, you usually want to start with back bends. This is a good counter to the entire practice, and you just prepared to open up the upper body and the low back. So moving slowly into a back bend and making sure you're giving all kinds of adjustment options. So if you have a mixed level class, and some people can go right up into a back bend, and some people are newer in the class and don't know exactly where to begin, you want to make sure you're giving people blocks or straps or any type of guidance so that they don't injure themselves in this third wave when they're starting to feel more tired. And then immediately after the back bend, you want to make sure you're following with that forward fold to counter all of the openings that you just did throughout the practice. During the third wave, it's a good time to bring your music and voice down, making sure your voice inflection goes from being as high and loud as possible in the second wave back down to low and calm, allowing people to let all the work that they just did kind of soak in and resonate in their body, coming back to the ground slowly. This is where you can kind of circle back to the beginning, where your intent was. You can reference what your theme was, kind of whether it was calming or energizing, asking people to notice how they feel in their body now in relation to how they felt when they first began the class. And we end it with dimming of the lights and taking down completely to the ground into corpse pose or savasana, where they will take rest. And you come back with a final closing round of Om as we begin the class to kind of signify the ending of the entire cycle. So does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Do you recommend music with words during the second wave?
I would recommend using no words in the first and third wave and in the second wave. So I would say if you're going to go with any newer, like techno upbeat music with words, that's where I would want to come into the second wave, and that's where you can have a little bit more fun with it.
Okay.
So thank you for attending today. We will close with one final round of Om. Om.